Hey guys, welcome to Naledi Dilena. It's your girl Naledi and I hope you enjoy this video. I am making this video because I am concerned about the future of the Zimbabwean youth. And that should be obvious because I am part of the youth in question. But I believe the spotlight is starting to move towards the current generation or the current youth in Zimbabwe. We are a new and distinct generation that is starting to find their voice. We are starting to make an impact, or at least trying to make an impact. And we're moving to a point in our lives where we should be economically active, meaning that our dollars have power. We are the group that people are marketing to. And basically that means that we are going to shape the Zimbabwean future. That's a lot to expect from a group of people. And it's only natural that if you're going to expect that from the youth, then the youth should expect certain things from Zimbabwe in return. Unfortunately, the opportunities in Zimbabwe are few and far between and rather weak. So the incentive to invest ourselves into the Zimbabwean idea, or the hope that people have for Zimbabwe, isn't really an idea that is attractive to the general youth. And so we are starting to look for other ways to live a better life than the life that we are living, or live a better life than the life that we see our parents living. And for me, that means that the youth are weighing quite a number of options. And the main two options for me are two sides of the same coin. The first side of the coin is that the youth are thinking of, or are deciding, or are already leaving Zimbabwe. And the second part of the coin is that people are trying to think outside of the Zimbabwean box. And that means bringing elements of other cultures or other ideas from outside of Zimbabwe into Zimbabwe, or at least trying to incorporate it with the Zimbabwean culture or identity, whatever that is. And I'm planning to make a video about that, so stay tuned. But yeah, we'll be looking and weighing these two options that are the most popular options for the youth right now. The first side of the coin is that the youth are thinking about or are already leaving Zimbabwe. And this presents to us a number of pros and cons. But the idea behind this decision is that the best way to avoid a situation, or the best way to deal with a situation, is just not be involved in the situation at all. Not to mention that there are certain things that we believe Zimbabwe can't give us that other places can, and we'll look into that. The pros that I have are three. Yeah, I have three pros. And the first one is that leaving the country gives you the opportunity to reinvent yourself. And that means that you are not necessarily weighed down by the situation in Zimbabwe, the hopelessness, or by the perception that people have of you. This is more so for those that come from small towns, small cities, or from close-knit communities. You know, places where people watch you grow up and expect you to follow a certain path in life. And so moving outside of the country gives you an opportunity to escape that and to reinvent yourself in a way that you want to be perceived as. I really don't think you can truly run away from being Zimbabwean, but there are certain things that you stand to escape from when you actually leave Zimbabwe. The second pro is that you get to stand a chance to have your potential realized. What I mean by this is that Zimbabwe is full of talent and potential. smart people, intelligent people, people with numerous talents of varying degrees. And unfortunately, the structures, the systems, and the organizations needed to realize those potentials or to groom and train those talents are either few, are weak, or non-existent. And that presents a problem. It means that the purpose we have in life might not be a purpose that we realize, or might not be a purpose that we, live through. And that's very, very problematic. With Zimbabwe, it's just very hard to venture into certain industries without, receiving backlash, or without having people withdraw their support from you. And basically what I mean by this is that in Zimbabwe, STEM subjects are possibly the only subjects that are respected, apart from economics and finance or accounts or something like that. And what this means is that if you're somebody that's into the art, who is talented in acting, in drama, in painting, in sculpting, it's very hard for you to get the support you need to realize your talent. Not just from lack of funds or stuff like that, but the mindset of the Zimbabwean people will hinder you. And so a lot of the youth feel as if that sort of mindset is not entirely removed from the countries that they're aspiring to go to, but aren't as big as a barrier as they are here in Zimbabwe. And the third pro is that when a person leaves Zimbabwe, they stand a chance to live in a country where systems and structures operate properly, or as best as they can. Meaning that you're probably wanting to go to a country with a functioning economy, or with a political system that is easy to understand, or the facade of a political system that's easy to understand. That's America for you. But generally, going to another country presents for a lot of the youth stability, knowing what is to come and planning accordingly without any surprises to throw you off guard. And that's a very nice thing. Everyone wants stability. And with stability, you can plan your life. You can plan a way to move up in life. You can plan a way to take care of your family. And that's what everyone wants. You have the greater chance to upward mobility in a company or in an industry. You can enjoy some of the benefits that come with living in that country. And that's what a lot of the youth want. Unfortunately, there are cons that come with leaving Zimbabwe. And the first one is a brain drain. I feel like everybody's gone through at least O-level geography, and we know what brain drain is. But for those who don't, and for those that forgot, brain drain is basically when the intelligent, viable youth or minds of a country leave the country itself looking for greener pastures. And what is left behind are dependents and people that are unable to stabilize or uplift the country. And basically what this does is create a never-ending cycle of brain drain. Those that are capable of helping Zimbabwe leaving us with a shattered country. And because we are left with a bigger and bigger responsibility to fix the country, we feel overwhelmed, and we believe that it is easier to leave the country. And then we leave the country, leaving other people with a bigger and bigger responsibility to fix it, and it's overwhelming, and you get the picture. Brain drain usually leads to more brain drain, and that is a very, very difficult thing to overcome. The second con is that there is a rise in nationalism in the globe in general. What that means is that more and more people are looking towards the interests of their nation and their nation only, meaning that they're only counting the interests of those who are native or are local to the country in question. We're going to look at nationalism in Europe, in America, and rising nationalism in South Africa, where you have hashtags like put South Africans first, or having stringent immigration laws like that in the US and those in the UK, or general hostility and xenophobia towards foreigners like that in Europe, and flashes of that in South Africa. That presents a struggle for somebody that's leaving Zimbabwe, because you are possibly leaving your home and going to a nation that does not welcome you, does not want you, and that removes the stability or some of the stability that you were hoping for. Having to constantly look behind your back, or having to live in a situation where your status as a migrant or as a resident of a country is constantly in question, you're never really truly comfortable. And that comes to my third con, is that you're never really truly comfortable. Even if you make a country your home and you stay there for a long time, there's just this underlying feeling or underlying realization that this is not your home, and therefore it becomes even more difficult to set yourself in that country or to root yourself in that country. And so you're always sort of aloof. That's never really a desirable way of living, and it's not really something that you would encounter here in Zimbabwe, provided that it is your home. But those two cons, in terms of nationalism and never feeling comfortable, go hand in hand, and that's a major deterrent for those that consider leaving Zimbabwe. The last con is that you eventually become homesick. I have read many messages, heard many, stories of how migrants or those in the diaspora, when they visit home, the first thing that they want to eat is like homemade traditional food. They want to speak their language. They want to stay home, because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, Zimbabwe is our home. And there's just no place like home. There's a reason why that saying exists in the first place. Unless you're somebody that can overcome homesickness very well, homesickness will be a very, very big factor in your life that will make it somewhat harder to live in the country that you're considering living in. The second side of the coin is the side that prompts the Zimbabwean youth to think outside of the Zimbabwean box. And basically, the Zimbabwean box is the set of cultures and mindsets and ideas that rule in Zimbabwe, or the certain ideas and cultures and concepts that drive the common Zimbabwean man. And I alluded to this when I was talking about the option that people are considering in terms of leaving Zimbabwe, where you have an idea in Zimbabwe that only STEM subjects are respectable, only STEM subjects are going to bring you the desired effects or the desired life that you want. And so people are trying to think outside of the hopelessness and the general ideas that govern Zimbabwe, as well as the structures that hinder us from, prospering. Usually these things or these ideas that we bring into Zimbabwe heavily rely on an online presence. And that means stuff like YouTube or stuff like forex trading and stuff like that in general. There are pros and cons to this particular idea, which I will discuss. The pros to this is that we are trying to catch up somewhat with the rest of the world. And that means that what is happening in the world right now, we are trying to bring into Zimbabwe so that we are somewhat in the same timeline with the rest of the world, or are following up very closely to the rest of the world. Another pro is that you get to be ahead of the wave. Since these ideas or these opportunities are not available to the average Zimbabwean, if you have access to means that allow you to think outside of the Zimbabwean box, it means that you are one of the few people that live possibly decently in Zimbabwe, which means there's probably less competition concerning the ideas you have, and you get to stand a chance to be ahead of the wave, the first to introduce this idea or this concept or this industry in Zimbabwe. Trailblazers enjoy a certain level of, fame, for those that want fame or clout, and also you get to be the name that's known for whatever industry you're delving into. Even as other people start to catch on, you will be in the lead, and that's a wonderful thing to have, I think. But yeah, another thing is that you get to be in control of how you reinvent these ideas in Zimbabwe. So basically, you can fashion these ideas, these concepts, these companies in whatever way you want before some other company with their own set of ideas and principles comes in and establishes themselves in Zimbabwe. You get to shape it the best way you can and the best way you think should be the way. That was a very iffy sentence, and we'll ignore it. But yeah, basically, you're in control of how this idea is interpreted or how this idea is perceived. And that's a great thing to have. For me, there are two major cons to this side of the coin. The first one being that the structures that are needed to support this type of thinking, thinking out of the Zimbabwean box, are not present in Zimbabwe, or they're very weak. Like I said, some of these ideas rely on a heavy online presence. That means constant internet access, strong internet connection, a strong online presence, meaning a lot of Zimbabweans need to be online consistently. And those are things that are not present in Zimbabwe at the moment. Those things, or the fact that those things are not present in Zimbabwe, might deter you from pursuing some of the ideas you have, or they might make it more difficult to prosper in those companies or in those industries that you want to bring in to Zimbabwe. The second con to this, and the bigger con for me, is that the culture that is needed to support these ideas and invest into these ideas is not there in Zimbabwe. Not a lot of people understand what an influencer is, what a YouTuber is. And forex trading, for a lot of people, is a new thing that a lot of people are still skeptical about. Basically, we in Zimbabwe don't have a culture that understands some of these ideas that we want to bring into Zimbabwe. And that presents a lot of problems. One, it's hard to market something to people when they don't even understand the thing that you're marketing to them. And second of all, it is harder to find support or to gain support for something that the large amount of people in your country do not understand or do not see the importance in. And so generally, there are major stumbling blocks concerning those two main cons in trying to develop and pursue some of these ideas and cultures that we are trying to bring into Zimbabwe. You're probably, I know a lot of you, especially those of the youth, are seeing, Okay, now that I've described these two main options, you're probably wondering, okay, now what? Why did you make this video? I mean, I did give the reason why, but another reason as to why I made this video is just to flesh out the options, the two main options that our current youth is exploring, and to also give an idea to those who are not part of the Zimbabwean youth what is going on in the minds of the youth, or what the youth is considering or thinking about concerning their future. I know for a lot of people they might not like those two options, especially the leaving Zimbabwe option, in the sense that they believe that the youth is betraying their nation and that they should stay behind and fix things. But I just wanted to say something to those people that believe that the youth is betraying Zimbabwe by pursuing other options. People should understand that it's very, very hard and overwhelming to think about how you as a person can help Zimbabwe out of the place that we find it in. The responsibility, the amount of effort needed, the amount of planning, coordination, unity, it's just a lot for us to think about. Socially, economically, culturally, we are a dysfunctional country, and so it's very hard to try and think of ways you can fix the many and major problems that are plaguing Zimbabwe. I think people just take for granted that we have a youth that's available, and people just think, oh well, we can just plug the youth into this problem and everything will be fixed. I don't think people understand how overwhelming it is for the Zimbabwean youth to realize that you have a hard task in front of you. There's a lot of responsibility placed on the youth with very little help, or very little to help them. There's not much left of Zimbabwe to help the youth revive Zimbabwe itself. And I think people need to understand that's kind of why the reason why a lot of Zimbabwean youth are not that keen on investing themselves into the Zimbabwean life that everyone has dreamt of. It's a very hard thing to think about. It's overwhelming, not to mention the fact that we've seen the potential and the careers of our parents, of our uncles and aunties just go down the drain. People we know who are brilliant, that can do so much, are doing close to nothing for themselves, for their families, and especially for their countries. And so there are not a lot of role models that are there to inspire us, and there's not a lot of reference we have in terms of seeing a successful Zimbabwe, and that just makes the job a whole lot more difficult. So for those of you that think that the youth are betraying Zimbabwe, that they're not putting their back into it, understand what they're coming up against and just employ a little bit of patience and compassion. Anyways, that's the end of the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you think about the video. Tell me what you think about the topic. Please don't be harsh out here. Do not be harsh. But let's start a conversation or a discussion or a healthy debate about the topic at hand. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at naledi_dilena, where you'll get to see some of my ideas, some of my thoughts, and some of my pictures. But yeah, again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.